Before you begin, make sure that you're parked on level ground, your parking brake is engaged, and that your ignition is off. Once your engine has had adequate time to cool, release your hood latch and open the hood, so that you can disconnect your negative battery terminal. The manufacturer recommends adding a dab of dielectric grease to the end of all connectors on both the logic box and extension wires included with the kit. This protects the electrical connection points and components from moisture and corrosion. Starting with the logic box in this location here, locate the extension harness labeled front driver and connect it to the logic box connectors labeled front driver. There'll be a 2-pin connector with yellow wire and a 3-pin connector with black wire. Route the remaining end of the front driver extension harness along the factory looming until you reach the left driver's side headlight location. Locate one of the corner light integration harnesses included with your kit. Then unplug the factory connector from the corner light and plug in one end of the Y harness into the factory connector, and then the other end back into the corner light. We will only be using the yellow wire from the Y harness so that we can grab an input from the left turn signal. Make sure that you tape the ends of both the red and black wires separately before taping them together. Then strip off the end of the yellow wire so that you can insert it into one of the ports on the included lever lock. Then take the yellow wire from the front driver harness we just ran and plug it into the remaining port on the lever lock. Then use electrical tape to cover your connection point. You'll have a 3-pin black connector remaining that we'll explain later in the video. Next, locate the extension harness labeled front passenger and connect it to the logic box connectors labeled front passenger. Again, there'll be a 2-pin connector with yellow wire and a 3-pin connector with black wire. Route the remaining end of the front passenger extension harness along the factory looming until you reach the right passenger side headlight location. Locate one of the corner light integration harnesses included with your kit. Then unplug the factory connector from the corner light and plug in one end of the Y harness into the factory connector, and then the other end back into the corner light. Make sure that you tape the ends of both the red and black wires separately before taping them together. Then strip off the end of the yellow wire so that you can insert it into one of the ports on the included lever lock. Then take the yellow wire from the harness we just ran and plug it into the remaining port on the lever lock. Then use electrical tape to cover your connection point. You'll have a 3-pin black connector remaining that we'll explain later in the video. Then go back through and zip tie both your front driver and passenger wiring harnesses along the factory looming to secure them in place. Locate the extension harness labeled rear driver and connect it to the logic box connectors labeled rear driver. There'll be a 1-pin connector with red wire and a 4-pin connector with black wire. Then locate the extension harness labeled rear passenger and connect it to the logic box connector labeled rear passenger. It'll be a single 4-pin connector with black wire. Route both the rear driver and passenger extension harnesses down and along the underside of the vehicle until you reach the rear driver's side of the Slingshot. Secure the harnesses in place with zip ties along the way, ensuring that they'll be out of the way of any moving parts or hot engine components. Remove the 3 bolts holding in your license plate bracket. And unplug the factory license plate light. Remove the 4 T40 Torx screws from the underside deck panel on the driver's side of the vehicle. As well as the 4 Torx screws on the passenger side, so that we can remove the panel from the bike. Remove the 4 T25 Torx screws on the driver's side of the rear center panel, as well as the 4 push pins so that you can remove the left rear corner panel. Use a 10mm socket with ratchet to remove the 2 bolts from your taillight assembly. Then use a T30 Torx wrench to remove the 3rd bolt located here. Once all the bolts are removed, carefully remove your driver's side taillight and unplug the factory connector. Locate the rear taillight Y harness included with your kit and plug one end of the included Y harness into the factory connector and the other end back into the taillight. Tuck the attached relay box and lever lock over the frame and reinsert your taillight. Once installed, you should have easy access to the 2-pin lever lock with yellow wire. Next, grab the 2 rear extension harnesses we ran down the underside of the vehicle and route them up to the driver's side taillight location. Grab the rear driver extension harness and connect the open end of the red wire into the available port on the lever lock with yellow wire. Then use electrical tape to cover your connection point. Reinstall the 3 factory bolts that hold your driver's side taillight in place. Then grab the rear passenger extension harness and route it over to the passenger side taillight location. Go back through and zip tie your wiring, bundling up any excess slack. Reinstall the 4 factory screws that hold in your rear center panel. Then reinstall the corner panel and insert the 4 factory push pins. We'll now need to connect the logic box to the FC1 aftermarket fuse block for power. Use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the 2 screws holding in your fuse block lid. Connect the red positive wire from the logic box to one of the available 12-volt outputs on the FC1 fuse block and tighten down the terminal with a small flathead screwdriver. Then connect the black negative wire from the logic box to the ground bus terminal and tighten that down. Insert a 10 amp fuse for the selected circuit, making sure that the fuse is inserted on the switched 12-volt side of the fuse block. This will ensure that the logic box only receives power when the ignition is on. Then reinstall your fuse box lid and reconnect your negative battery terminal. Moving back to the rear of the Slingshot, with the underside deck panel still removed, You can see that we have a conveniently located 4-pin power connector on both the left and right side of the vehicle, just underneath the taillights. Grab both of the included 1-in-4 4-pin expansion harnesses and plug one into the power connector on each side of the vehicle. If you've purchased our LED afterburners, you can plug the included LED afterburner harness into one of the available ports on the expansion harness. Then the other end of that harness into the afterburner itself. Once the ignition is on, you can see here you'll have running lights, brake lights, and turn signal functionality. If you've purchased an LED strip that features running lights and brake lights only, such as our GT3 wing lights, you'd plug in the included run and brake module into any one of the available power ports at the rear of the vehicle. Then plug the other side into your lighting strip. If you're powering multiple lighting strips with run and brake light functionality, you can add our optional 1-in-4 2-pin expansion harness just after the run and brake module, allowing you to plug in multiple lighting strips while only occupying one port on the primary power harness. Any remaining ports available on your power harness can be used to expand your lighting ecosystem at any time. Once you've connected your lighting mods on both the rear driver and passenger side of the bike, you can reinstall your underside deck panel with the 8 factory T40 Torx screws. There'll be 4 screws on each side. Then plug back in your factory license plate light connector and reinstall your license plate bracket. Moving up to the front of the Slingshot, you'll again have a conveniently located plug-and-play power connector on both the driver and passenger side of the Slingshot, just behind the headlights to power your front-end lighting mods. Grab one of the included 1-in-4 3-pin expansion harnesses and plug it into the power connector on either side of the vehicle. This takes the single power connector and expands it to 4 connectors, allowing you to power several different mods. If you've purchased either our upper or lower Slingquential lights, you can power both of these through the logic box by using the included harnesses. Simply plug the larger connector into the plug on the back of the Slingquential light and plug the smaller 3-pin connector into any of the available power ports on the expansion harness. Then repeat for the lower Slingquential if applicable. If you've purchased an LED strip that features running lights and turn signals such as our Eyebladez, then you'd plug in the included blinker module into any one of the available power ports, then plug the other side into the lighting strip itself. If you're powering multiple lighting strips with run and turn signal functionality like we are, you can add our optional 1-in-4 2-pin expansion harness just after the blinker module, allowing you to run multiple lighting strips while only occupying one port on the primary power harness. Once you have all your front-end lighting mods connected, zip tie your harnessing up and out of the way of any and all moving parts, and close your hood.